Hello and welcome to Caffeine Entertainment. I'm your host, Mental9R, and this is episode number 7 of the GMX podcast. I got a few topics lined up for you today. I greatly appreciate you being here, and of course, as always, I've got my co-host with me, F1nTinTin. Let's bring him on now.
You forget who that was for a second? Yeah.
No. No, I didn't. I'm not getting old. I didn't just have a complete mental pause there for that half a second.
Okay. That must be my mistake.
Yeah. Well, you know what it was? I was going to say, and I've got my good buddy with me, Finn. But then I had to remind myself it's F1nTinTin. So,
okay.
Because I often refer to you as just Finn, the short version, right? But yeah, anyway, how's things, man? Haven't talked to you in what? 3 minutes at least.
Yeah, 3 minutes. Yeah, and nothing has happened in those 3 minutes other than me getting another Coke. So things are still good. Coke isn't as cold as I would like it to be. I didn't have it in the fridge. My wife took the last Coke in the fridge. That was disappointing. But besides that, things are good.
I'm still sipping on the Monster because at my age, you need the real kick in the pants to stay up this late. So it's tough sledding. I'll still go straight to bed though, so no worries.
And then 2 hours after you.
Yeah, I know. It's past midnight for you. I'm just like, geez, 10 o'clock. Actually, I rarely get to bed before midnight anyway. It just always seems to go on. Whether I'm gaming or whatever, it just never seemed to get to bed before midnight. But so, I already know what you've been playing. I don't know if we need to go through all that stuff, but for those that didn't watch our Backlogs and Replay episode, you can see by my background, I always lean the wrong way, the Order 1886. That was our Backlogs and Replay episode. So you want to check that out, maybe, if you want to hear our thoughts on that game. But I think in general, spoiler alert, I think we both enjoyed it somewhat. Yep. A few complaints.
You really want to listen to that episode. Yeah, you really want to.
You really do. You really do. And then you can be the judge. But it was good fun revisiting that game. So, but for GMX, we've got a few other topics to go through. I think we got just under a half a dozen. I do think we'll be able to get through this in one show. I don't believe we'll have a part 1, part 2 this time, because it's fairly straightforward topics, I think. And first up, we have the end of an era, the closing of the Xbox 360 marketplace after 19 years, and this is, I think I said backstage before we went on and started recording, but gotta wonder why they didn't just leave it one more year and make it 20 years. Just because it's a nice round number. 19 years is kind of a weird number to me. 20 would have been nice, but it is the end of an era. There's a lot of people that are, I saw folks that were upset that it's going away, and a lot of the games you'll still be able to buy on your Series X console or Series S console or Xbox One. There's still 360 games for sale on there, but it's only the back compat titles. So there are some that are gone for good now because they were only available on that 360 store. They weren't available in back compat. So unless you're modding your console and going to one of those nefarious pirate sites and downloading the game from there to play on a modded console, there's no way to really get it because they weren't available on disc. They were digital only, things like that. I did spend a few dollars. I picked up a couple of games on it. I couldn't tell you what they were now, to be perfectly honest. So it obviously meant a lot to me. But for nostalgia reasons, I went in and I think I spent like $5. They were very cheap. Oh, Joust was one of them. I don't know. That might even be something you can get on back compat. I don't know. But I just wanted to use that 360 store one more time just for fun. And it was like $1.67, I think, if I remember right. Very cheap. But it's an old arcade favorite that I used to like playing way back in the day. Did you take a look at it at all, or this just kind of came across your radar?
Yeah, I saw the article, obviously. I checked it out, and I said in 19 years versus 20. That seems so Microsoft. Like, why do anything with any sense of taste or respect? Just like 19 years. Okay, that's good. Cut it out. That seems, as I say, so Microsoft.
It's a weird one.
But
it's a weird one. I mean, you and I, hey, maybe they had.
Sorry,
I'm just stopping myself because I just realized they're Microsoft. They wouldn't have to probably renew their licensing for their servers. So it's not like they had to spend a couple $1 million on Microsoft licenses to keep the servers up, to keep the store going.
Maybe they're all Windows 10 and they couldn't update them.
Yeah, or they're probably running server 2008 or something like that, and they just didn't want to go through their upgrades or something. I don't know. I would guess it's probably was running on Azure, all on virtual machines and junk. I mean, I can't imagine them doing it any other way. But for seriousness, like another year, just round it out to 20 would have made so much sense to me. But it is what it is. It's the end of an era. And I mean, I think a lot of people, the 360 was a fantastic console. I still remember the utter shock. Michelle bought me mine for Christmas, 2005, not expecting it at all. And seeing the Xbox 360, I mean, it was more powerful than any PC you could buy at that time. And, I think a lot of people forget there was a time when the new consoles were the powerhouse when it came to gaming, and they would remain that way for a period of time before PCs would catch up and pass them. And the 360 was much stronger than anything you could get on PC. I mean, it had a 3-core processor on the CPU side, and it had a graphics capability that just wasn't available on the PC. It took about 6 or 8 months before the PC had graphics cards that were better. But then the CPU was still weaker because you were still dealing with single cores back then for the most part. Maybe a dual core at best. I'm trying to remember when dual cores came out. But so there's a lot of nostalgia there. And of course, Gears of War, that Mad World trailer was just like, wow. And of course, they had the video file on the console when I got it all fired up and watched that trailer, and I was just like, oh, I can't wait to play Gears of War. A lot of nostalgia for me. I don't know if it was like that for you, but
yeah, I mean, I agree 360 was a great machine. I didn't have the same level of nostalgia. I think we know, like, you're more of an Xbox guy than me, although I had a 360, of course. But like, I always feel like in general, nostalgia is a bit of an overrated commodity in video games because things don't, unlike in other areas, like like you and me and fine wine, not everything gets better with age. So like I had a bit of nostalgia for it for sure. Thinking back to the 360 days, but I didn't venture in and buy any more games to add to my already considerable pile of shame. Having said all that, I say nostalgia is overrated. We just went back and played. We're playing obviously our replay games as well. In some respects, they do hold up quite well, but I wasn't tempted. I just thought it was an interesting story as they're shutting it down. I'm sure it couldn't have kept them that much to keep it going, especially for one more year for the 20th anniversary, as you said. It would have been nice to have like a 20th anniversary and some big giveaway or something like that. But
a little more fanfare.
As I say, it's Microsoft, right? So you kind of expect a little bit of a lack of reading the room.
Yeah, no, I think that nails it. Actually, they're not good at reading the room, and a little bit of, like I say, a little fanfare around it might have been something cool, like hype it up, 20-year anniversary, end of an era, blah blah blah, all those things, and kind of make a big deal out of it, just because it was their most successful console generation in terms of hardware sales, and I honestly I don't know that they'll ever surpass those numbers. I think it was around 86 or 87 million consoles that sold, and that speaks volumes for how far they've come down on that front. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in this episode. But would have been nice. 20 years would have been nice. But I don't really have anything else to say on this topic. Do you have any other thoughts? I got to kind of queue up a different share
topic
here. So I got a different screen share I have to do because I couldn't find the actual article. I only have a silly screen capture. So for the next topic, I will bring that one up. This was an interview that I got this screen cap from, of just the transcript, And I wish I could find the actual interview. I searched around a little bit. I couldn't find this exact thing. But Keith Bachman, I guess, is an industry analyst. He was talking to Satya Nadella and Amy Hood. I'm not going to leave the E out, but Amy Hood, the executive vice president and chief financial officer over at Microsoft, and basically says, I won't read it verbatim, but he's introduced himself. Good morning or good evening, I guess, and he wanted to talk a bit about Xbox content and services, where the revenue grew 61%, but 58 points of that came from Activision. So a net 3% or 3-point growth just from the core business of Xbox that existed prior, which, you kind of look at that and you think that's not really that good, to be honest, right? For all the talk of software as a service, more or less, and going more into the idea of becoming a third party, that type of growth isn't that encouraging, I don't think. So, we'll look into Satya's response. As for us, our investment in gaming fundamentally was to have, I would say, the right portfolio of both what we love about gaming and have always loved about gaming. Didn't know he loved gaming. I didn't know he was
like he's probably what he loves about gaming is probably the dollars that come with it.
Yeah, the revenue. Yeah. The revenue, exactly. Then he says, which is Xbox and the content for the console, and expand. That really doesn't read right, but expand from there so that we have the content everywhere people play games, starting with PC. So when I think about the Activision portfolio, it comes with great assets for us to cover both the PC and the console, and then, of course, assets to cover mobile sockets, which we never have. Let's see. And then he says they also feel I don't know if there's anything really super relevant in there. Oh, yes. I thought this was interesting, but we're also excited about these new sockets, right? I mean, the fact that even this last quarter we expanded xCloud to Amazon TV. I forget the name of what it's called. So completely forgot it was the Amazon Fire TV.
Oh my goodness.
And I thought that was just priceless. Like, to me, that was the funniest thing about this whole thing.
Oh, jeez.
But that's a type of new access that really helps us a lot.
But he loves gaming.
Reach a lot of new gaming. Yeah, I know. Reach a lot of the new gamers or the same gamers everywhere they want to play. I mean, a decent point. But then, you go to Amy's comment, and she starts out with, no, I do think the real goal here is to be able to take a broad set of content to more users in more places and really build what looks more like, to us, the software annuity and subscription business with enhanced transactions and the ownership of IP, which is quite valuable in the long term.
I can imagine all the gaming community getting so excited, especially with that first sentence. They were like falling out of their chairs with excitement about all the possibilities that she's. I find it hysterical that I know that the Xbox is coming to the Fire Stick and the CEO does not. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I think, like I say, that's the funniest part of the whole thing. But is it just me, or do you get the feeling too that they're sending mixed messages? On one hand, you got Satya trying to kind of pump the console a little bit, sort of alluding to that being the core of their business, but they also want to expand on PC. And then Amy comes in and goes, no, the real goal here is to take a broad set of content to more people in more places, basically saying what we want to do is make sure we sell games everywhere, go third party, and charge microtransactions for stuff we already have. Like, live services is the game here. It just seemed to shut him down, and the messaging he was trying to send out to the hardcore community, because let's face it, this is probably a message to shareholders, right? I don't know who the guy is that was doing the interview, but I'm guessing it was a shareholder thing or something. And you got to know, in this day and age, gamers are reading this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it always gets back to the gamers, at least on social media. Sure, the average Joe doesn't know anything about it, but your hardcore fans, the ones that are interested, the ones that push your products to other people, that tell their family, tell their friends, get this, they're going to hear that and think, why the hell do I have a console?
So I guess the headline for this podcast then is going to be "Shock Horror: Microsoft sends mixed messages."
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
I mean,
That might just be it.
I think the second, like Amy's message, seems to be more on the nose in terms of what's actually happening, what they're
Yes.
doing. So it's further confirmation that they're edging their way out of the console business, in my mind. What I do find surprising, and sorry, not to be too boring here, to talk about finances and all that. So much of the additional revenue is tied to this Activision acquisition. Um, I'm not. Maybe it's going to take some time. Like I'm not sure what the long term plan is, obviously, but you would expect, in order for that to make sense, rather than just get new revenue from this, you would expect some additional pull through revenue in other areas as well. You know what I mean? Like you would have expected that's going to have like a knock on effect in other areas, so that everything else isn't going to be just 3.8%. Everything, like a rising tide lifts all ships, so to speak, right? Like it's going to pull up other areas as well, like Game Pass subscriptions or whatever else. But it clearly doesn't seem to be really happening for them, and probably the lack of a clear messaging from Microsoft is part of the reason why. Like you said yourself, as a like I would say at least a semi-admitted Xbox fanboy, you were reluctant to buy new Xbox-related hardware, right? Because of that messaging and how you think that they're getting out of the
It's more.
business.
I'm reluctant to buy digital games on Xbox now, because am I investing in a platform that doesn't have legs, so to speak? Like the thing is, I don't think they're going anywhere, but I don't want to have to only stream my games. If I'm buying games, I want to play them on physical hardware, and I just don't know that the physical hardware is going to exist
I'm just
much
thinking now.
beyond the next generation. So,
I mean, not that this would be an ideal solution for everyone, obviously, but I'm just crossed my head now. I wonder, will they have some bridging mechanism if they do go down the no console path, so that you can at least get the games on PC, like at no additional cost or something like that. That you want, and they should do, but that again, it's Microsoft, so probably something that they wouldn't do. But it's something that it would be an idea. It wouldn't be suitable for everyone, as I say, but for a lot of people who have a PC, that would not be a bad. You have a game here. That
here's the
console,
thing. What I think the writing seems to be on the wall that their next console will be a Windows device, like we discussed way back in episode 1. And it does sound like there will be a mechanism, probably through emulation, to play all of your owned Xbox games from the walled garden era. That's what I'm getting the impression of. That seems to be, I don't know if you watched that video link that I sent you the other day, but that's essentially what that video was saying. You'll have a device that's basically running full Windows, and you'll be able to use any game store, and your old games are going to work on it.
Yeah.
And, it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. I mean, I was a big fan of that strategy, assuming they can make it work. That could be a really hot seller. I mean, it'll play everything, like I said before. For anyone that wants to watch it, I think that episode was back in April, like early April, maybe like first week of April, I think.
Before we made it big, everyone.
Yes, before we had 60 subscribers. Thank you to each and every one of you that has subscribed. If you watched this long, hit that subscribe button. Glad to have you as part of our community. So I'm joking, but at the same time, I'm very honest about that. Appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you so much. But if they go that path and they're making profit on the hardware, which I actually think they are making decent profit on it now. I can't imagine that they would not be making profit on the hardware they're selling now. But assuming they're making profit on it, there's incentive there to sell it and continue to produce it. I do think it would sell well. And with that type of strategy, this question starts to become, because we know PlayStation's putting all their games on Windows, the question starts to become, why buy a PlayStation? if I can play all their games too. So it changes the conversation quite a bit. And I think I'm still a firm believer that if they build a decent handheld that's Windows based and can play all their games locally through emulation and PC games, and then they have a console to go along with that, make the handheld the new S device, get rid of that other thing, and then have a full-blown console, it could be a great pairing. So we never know. But until I see the strategy and I see what's actually happening, I'm just not buying digital content for their Xbox anymore. I'm picking up the odd game on disc, and that's it.
I think based on history, you're not going to get a lot of heads up from Microsoft as to what their strategy is. They're going to announce it at some point that we've decided to stop this or start that, and you'll probably have a few months of heads up in order to get your head wrapped around it. And for people who have this, here's your options. If you can unsubscribe or whatever it is. I just don't think they have, like we've said in the last show, they have some great products, they have some great services, they have some great games, they have some shit messaging. And as I think we said about something else, they do not read the room.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a good segue into another topic here about Xbox. Microsoft released their fourth quarter results. And in terms of Xbox and gaming, there is some positive. Their revenue was up by 61% for their Q4. It's our Q2 that ended, but in their fiscal year, it's their Q4. On the surface, that sounds really great until you look into it and see that 58 points of that came from Activision Blizzard. 3 points came from their core original Xbox business, which isn't a lot of growth when you really look at it, especially considering their push to play anywhere, their push that you don't need a console, just buy a Fire Stick. There you go, Satya. I know you had trouble remembering that, but it was a Fire Stick. Or Fire TV, I guess, depending on who you're talking to. But anyway, when you look at that, Xbox Game Pass has grown to 34 million subscribers, but that's also including Game Pass Core, which was their live gold before. So how much growth is that really? I don't know. I look at all this. They got price hikes coming for Game Pass, which we talked about in our previous video as well in episode, what was it, 6? Yeah, episode 6. So, I don't know. I don't think that's that. On the surface, it sounds great, but I don't think it's as great as it sounds. Let's just say it that way. And then the last kind of thing that came out of this, beyond just the active monthly users, was that Xbox hardware revenue, easy for me to say, is down a massive 42% again this quarter. This is the second quarter in a row where they've had huge declines in hardware revenue. And to me, that's why I'm just not interested in spending money on digital games right now. Not until I know what their strategy is. And, it's great. We now have over 500 million active users across all platforms and devices. But if you're not selling console hardware, I still think that is the foundation of Xbox in a lot of people's eyes. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe having, 10 million people on Fire Sticks and, another 10 million people playing through just streaming in a browser and so on and so on. Maybe those numbers alone are good enough. But, that requires a Game Pass sub. I don't know. Do you only get third parties producing games then that are going into Game Pass? I don't know. It's a tough one because I just see a future where potentially third parties are skipping the platform.
I mean, I think you are wrong to a degree. We've had this, not completely wrong in terms of your sentiment, but in terms of shit. Okay. When a company, I only just spotted it now, when one of their catchphrases apparently is like, no Xbox required.
Yeah, big surprise, right?
How committed are they to the Xbox when they're upselling the idea that you don't need one? As I say, everything they're doing and even some of what they're saying is indicating they're not interested in the hardware console market. I don't think there is going to be, again, regurgitating what we said last week, I don't think there's going to be a next generation Xbox. I don't think there is going to be one. I'd be surprised.
Well, they've announced they're building the hardware. They've announced it's going to be the biggest generational leap yet. We've discussed way back in that other video theories on how that could happen. I know there's, talks about different like mixed hardware in it, where maybe you have x86 for running all your games locally, but then you use ARM to use the advantages of low power and specialized code paths that don't use a ton of power to run the AI pieces and stuff. So, that may be a way that they're going to do this. Again, I think they're going to build one more Xbox. How well it will sell is what I'm questioning, right? If you're seeing these massive declines now, they're going to have something pretty special and a pretty compelling reason for people to go out and buy it.
But even for themselves, right? Like, okay, so even for themselves, they're not selling a lot of, so they're investing a lot in game studios. They're investing a lot in creating games. They're pushing very strongly playing these games on platforms other than Xbox. Their own Xbox console sales are hurtling down a cliff. Like, what is their motivation based on what's happening to their console sales and based on their own messaging? What is their motivation for making another console? What are they going to do so differently? That means, hey, when they say like no Xbox required, but hey, we're going to make another one anyway and invest a lot. I somehow think that like maybe it's going to be like you say, it's going to be a PC and they put an Xbox sticker on it and they said, there you go, that's the next generation Xbox.
Well, it's going to be more than that. Hardware-wise, you're not wrong. It'll be custom hardware, I think, because they can leverage their skill set that they have there, and they can order in such volume that they can keep the price down. So it'll be a custom PC that will run full Windows, but it's also going to have a custom dashboard that will look like a console. It'll feel like a console. It's just you're going to be able to play PC games on it.
Yeah.
And every game. And I do think there's a market for something like that, because you can't build a decent PC for the living room at a reasonable price. So if they can keep this in around the $700 US range, you can't build anything in a PC that will probably compete with it, at least when it launches. It'll have to be price fluid, but
what I'm saying is that architecturally, it's not going to be different than a PC. So
they're already not different than a PC.
Yeah, but there's going to be like a game that will play on this, like it's your mini PC or whatever you want to call it, in front of your TV, and the same game without any updates or changes will play on your PC.
Yeah,
maybe you can change the settings and all that, but I think that's what it's going to be. It's not really going to be another console. It's just going to be an iteration, or it's going to be a PC basically. I think. But anyway, we don't know. I guess
that's actually an interesting thought. What really makes a console a console? Because they are, like, the PlayStation and the Xbox are essentially PCs. You can actually buy the motherboard and CPU, and that had defective GPUs. You can actually buy that in a PC form factor, like they're selling the APU from the PlayStation 5. And you can buy that from China and throw a graphics card in it and have the core of the PlayStation 5 just with a dedicated GPU.
There's a few things, I guess, that differentiate them. Again, besides the architectural level, but I think in essence, it's an ecosystem, as you said. It's the environment in which you're playing, like the interface, etc., that you're experiencing. It's also the hardware that is sitting physically under your. As it may or may not be important to some people, but the PlayStation and the Xbox have a specific look and feel, like in terms of the physical appearance of the hardware that sit under your, that is another part of it. It connects your piece, or sorry, to your big screen TV versus your PC, and it's got these customized controllers that are specific to that. And then finally, there is some expectation as well, which I know is something that you've gone on about quite a bit, and we both have. There's some expectation as well that there's going to be games that are available there that are not available elsewhere, right? And I think a lot of those barriers, I guess, are being broken down. And maybe what we'll end up having is it's genuinely, it's a PC with, with customized elements, as you mentioned, with a customized controller potentially, and that's it. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think,
I honestly think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I could see PlayStation going that route eventually too, especially if Xbox does this and it works really, really well. I could see PlayStation taking a similar path, and then it will become a battle of the ecosystem versus a battle of what games are available, because all games will be everywhere, and it'll just be Xbox Game Pass in that ecosystem versus PlayStation Plus in that ecosystem.
Well, if it truly is essentially a PC, in essence, it will mean that PlayStation games are available for it, because most PlayStation games are available on the PC after some period of time. Now, they may not be available straight away, but that will break down another barrier as well. I don't think you're wrong.
That's where the conversation becomes, why buy a PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
Instead of why buy an Xbox. And, I guess time will tell, but it's an interesting article. It's interesting results financially for them.
And this is what I was referring to as well a little bit. Maybe I was jumping ahead of the gun a little bit, but they, as well as the Activision, are, as much as it's increased their revenue, it hasn't really increased their revenue elsewhere, which was interesting, right? So maybe that will come, but we'll see.
Yeah, time will tell if their Game Pass strategy and, what essentially comes down to live services, transactions, and subscription services. We'll see if it pays off. But I do find it hilarious that Satya couldn't remember what the Amazon offering was. I thought that is
so nuts. That is so nuts.
That's just such a partner thing to do.
I
thought that was
some assistants is probably getting fired as we speak. You should have reminded me the name of that thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
the furnace thing. The furnace. You should have told me about the furnace.
Yeah. But anyway, why don't we'll slide into the next topic that I have here, and this is going into a little bit of TV stuff, or I guess movies, the media portion of the GMX podcast. Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to Marvel, not as Iron Man, but as Doctor Doom. I'm going to let you lead this one, Finn, because I think you're more up to speed on these types of things than I am. I watch the bloody movies. I barely know who anyone freaking is in terms of actors. I do know who RDJ is, of course. My wife has always been a huge fan, crush on him and all that crap. But, I know who he is. Obviously, I really like the Iron Man movies. I think I have all three of them on Blu-ray behind me. But don't know a lot about Doctor Doom. Maybe you can fill me in a bit.
I have him right here, actually. Where is he? Oh. There you go. There's Doctor Doom.
Doctor Doom. Look at that. Is he a good guy or a bad guy? I mean, it sounds like a bad guy.
He's a bad guy. He's the ruler of, I think, I'm going to say Latvia, but that's not right. Latveria, I think, is the name of some Eastern European conclave in the comics. Doctor Doom is a fantastic character, and this is somewhat born out of the whole controversy about this other dude who was playing Kang the Conqueror. He was apparently the guy that they were going to build the next phase of Marvel on, and then he got up to some very unfortunate shenanigans with his girlfriend, and wasn't pretty. I think he was found guilty of assault of some description, found not guilty of some stuff, but guilty of other stuff. Anyway, it was bad enough that Marvel cut the ties with him, so that threw the whole phase, whatever number they're on now, into disarray. So I guess they said, well, Kang is dead or not a viable concern. So I guess we need to find another supervillain. So they've already used Thanos. Kang is out, so Doctor Doom is next on the list, I guess. Um, yeah, it's what I thought about it overall though is that like I'm a huge, as you will have seen there, I'm a huge fan of Marvel. I always have been a huge fan of comics since I was a kid. I mean, I still am a kid, of course, but as an older kid,
That part.
I'm still a fan of the comics. I got a bunch of the comics there for nostalgia reasons back behind me. I just say, but Marvel has not been doing well in my opinion. The movies are just yeah, they've lost something since the early Avengers and Iron Man movies and the early Thor movies and Captain
Yeah.
America. They've lost something. They've lost a
They've
sense
had a
of
few stinkers. Although I
yeah,
hear the last one, what's it, Deadpool and Wolverine? I don't know what
yeah,
it's actually called, but I heard that's really good. So
yeah.
maybe there's hope.
That's a bit slightly of a different animal. It's I guess in the same universe, so to speak, but it did come from a different place than the Marvel and than the MCU. They acquired it after a while. I think Fox had it licensed or something. But anyway, I just think that what I thought is that it smacks of desperation a little bit to get themselves back in order, and I hope they do. I hope they do. I hope
Yeah.
they start producing better movies, maybe less of them, but
Yeah,
some
like
better movies. And because I do think this is going back to the well, Robert Downey Jr. worked before. Let's try him again. It seems a bit like
you're
yeah,
not wrong. I mean, he's a great actor. Like I'm always impressed with his acting capability, and he brings a level of quality to everything he does. So, you're not wrong. I think it's going to help. It sounds like they're paying him a lot of money to do this, and I have to assume it's like part of the multiverse concept because Iron Man. Well, spoiler alert! I think he died, didn't he?
yeah. I think that's what this article is
So,
suggesting. That
yeah,
for people like it isn't just that they're going to recast him as Doctor Doom, and like they never mention he's ever Iron Man. I think the
yeah,
suggestion from this article is that somehow, and it would make sense in a way because Doctor Doom. I know you don't know him, but Doctor Doom is also well a megalomaniac and a baddie and all that, but he's also kind of a genius, and he also has his own mechanical suit. So maybe given the right circumstances, Tony Stark grows up to be Doctor Doom
Doctor Doom instead.
of
Yeah,
Iron Man. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of the real Marvel continuity, but I do think you're going to do something like that where somehow in this world Tony Stark becomes Doctor Doom versus
yeah,
Iron Man.
yeah.
It would be so stupid if they brought him back and they just said, "Oh yeah, this is Victor Von Doom. What do you mean Iron Man? What do you mean Tony Stark? Never." Like, that would be kind of stupid.
Yeah, that would seem a little bit weird. But I'm interested to see where it goes. I guess we'll see. I'm sure there'll be lots of discussion about it as the thing goes through development and eventually
Well,
on the big
it's
screens.
generated some discussion anyway, which can only be, I guess, good for Marvel. Even if other people are saying like I am that they're a
Yeah,
bit desperate. I mean, I think no one has been excited for a new Marvel movie for a while. Honestly, I don't know. They're just flying by me now, and even someone who was waiting for every movie before, just probably like I'm probably 3 or 4 behind at least, and I don't even know what the hell they are.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to Battlestar Galactica. The reboot is no longer in development at Peacock. Um, are you a BSG fan?
Huge fan. I liked it. Like, well, I used to see the repeats of the I guess it was the '80s show, maybe the '70s even.
Like 79, 1980.
Was it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to see them as a kid on repeat when I was a wee little boy. And I just loved the reboot of it. Now, the fact that they
Me
were doing
too.
another reboot of it, like one of the best sci-fi shows ever, if not the best ever, in my opinion, blew me away.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait for every episode. Still remember some of the episodes so vividly. Some of the a lot of nail biting finales to the end of series, and like it's just a classic show
Uh,
all around. So the fact that
had
they were, oh sorry,
sorry, I was just gonna say, like, it was, for me, it had the best cliffhangers. from any series I'd ever seen. Like I've got the Blu-ray collector's edition box set on my shelf back there. Uh, Loved it. Absolutely loved that show. And um, I'll let you complete your
Oh
thought.
yeah, no, I was
But
so in a way I was scared. I mean, it's not that old.
okay, it's
I've
exactly
looked.
what I was gonna say.
I was my wife and I were just saying not so long ago we should watch that again. Like, and it's I've watched it more than
Yeah.
once, and it still holds up. It doesn't look dated or anything. We should, and we were going to watch it again. The idea of them doing it again so freaking soon, I was like, oh, don't screw it up, dudes. They don't. Please don't screw it up. Um, Now, so in one sense, positive news, they're not going to do it. On another sense, another bit of positive news is that reading the article, which wasn't clear when they said they were going to do a reboot of it before, now whether they're doing an old switcheroo on us and saying, "Oh, that didn't work out, so we're going to change it up," he seemed to be suggesting one of the main guys behind it. I can't remember the game. Oh, is it? Sam Emissel, whatever his name is. But he said like it was in the same universe, which suggests to me that they're not going to redo the story per se. They're going to do a parallel story or something, which would be okay. I just don't want. I don't want them to recast Adama. I don't want them to recast Apollo and Starbuck and just do a new story.
Yeah.
That would just piss me off.
It would. It would. Yeah, I'm trying to imagine how they could do a better job than what was done in the 2004 series. Like, I don't know if you ever saw the little Portlandia skit about Battlestar Galactica and how they were supposed to be going to a friend's birthday party, the husband and wife, and the husband's like, or was it a wedding or something? Oh yeah, it was a wedding, I think. And then he's like, I got this new show on disc, and he's holding up the box set of Battlestar Galactica, and he's like, I've heard it's really good. What if we just go to the reception and we skip the wedding? Maybe just watch one of these and then go, yeah, okay, I guess we can do that. So they sit down, and it's like, well, I guess we missed the reception, and it's like, oh, is it morning? And they're just going through show after show, and that's literally how it feels to watch those shows. Like Michelle and I, we had the first 2 seasons on disc, and we just binge watched them through a weekend, basically. It was just one after another, and like over a couple weekends we were done. And then it's like, oh no, when's season 3 come out? And the panic of realizing we had to wait 6 months to see the next show because of the cliffhangers. It was just unthinkable. And yeah, great show.
So if anyone
I'm
knows,
glad they're not redoing it.
if anyone knows better, they can correct us in the comments, or correct me in the comments rather. But this aired in the UK and Europe before it aired in the US.
Yeah, I think it came out in 2003.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reasons were, or the licensing or whatever was around that. But anyway, I was actually in Ireland. I was living in, I think, the US, but I was in Ireland at the time, just back on vacation or whatever. And my buddy, I don't even think it was the DVDs. I think he'd recorded them or something. And it was like literally, I was sitting in his apartment. I was staying with his apartment, and I was like, oh, he was out. I was supposed to meet him up later on for lunch or something. He was at work, and I was on vacation. And a bit like you and Michelle, or a bit like the Portlandia show, I said, "What the hell is this? Battlestar Galactica? Oh, the new Battlestar Galactica." I popped it in like 5 hours later. Mackie, my buddy, is calling. Where the hell are you? Like, like, I'm just on episode 4. Like, but yeah, it was addictive. I think once I saw, I think it was actually the first. Okay, there was the miniseries first, and then there was the first episode proper, which was 33. But 33 especially, I was hooked. I just wanted to know what is going to happen next. But a great show. I'm happy they're not redoing it in its entirety. I wouldn't mind seeing another show in the same universe, but don't redo it. You won't do it better.
No, for sure. All right. I don't think I have anything more to say about that. Loved BSG. If you haven't seen it, give it a watch. If you're a sci-fi fan, and a little bit of drama mixed in, it was fantastic. So I just had one more thing. Finn doesn't know what this is. Probably won't care, but I think this is nostalgia again for me. So I'll throw this on quickly. We'll rip through this. This is a skin for the Xbox. It was actually a wrap for the Series X that just looks so good in my mind. I'm just like, it completely reminds me of my OG green, emerald green Xbox that I have sitting on my shelf over there. And I thought it was super cool. But there's more. And I think there might be a couple here that you think are pretty cool, Finn. The Nuka-Cola wrap. A Nuka-Cola machine that whoops. Well, you can kind of get the drift of it here.
I love the controller. I didn't see that at first, so yeah, so cool.
Yeah, it's a vinyl stick-on for the controller as well. But I thought you would get a kick out of this, knowing you're such a Fallout 4 fan. Pretty cool, I thought, and even the there's a Cyberpunk one here that's pretty cool. This Ghostbusters one I thought was kind of neat.
Sorry, here's me. Like I was like, what is that? I couldn't see it there. I can see. I thought it was Sesame Street or something. But
yeah, no, it's Ghostbusters. And
hopefully the OG Ghostbusters, not the remakes.
Yeah, no doubt. Then there's a Matrix one, and then this cool. One I thought this was pretty cool too. Resistance is futile.
Oh, right,
Borg cube, which I thought was pretty neat. So they'll throw in at the end.
Yeah, they all look nice. Look nice.
I really love that emerald green one though. That is something that I would love to have, and maybe one day.
And you can have it for only $29.99, but looks of it.
Yeah, it'll probably come down. These ones are all $19.99. So. It's Extreme Consoles is the website. That's extreme-consoles.co.uk, and for anyone that's interested. And I think that's where we can wrap it up. It went a little bit longer. I don't think I'm going to split this one up, though. I think we'll just run it in one show. It's probably 40 minutes or so now, but why don't you tell everyone where they can find you?
I would love to.
How much you love doing this. So
I would love to. So I look forward to every show. F1nTinTin on PlayStation and Xbox and Steam, of course, and F1nTinTin with the one in the title on X.
Yeah, and you can find me at Mental9R on X and Mental9R on Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, and just about anywhere else you can play games. Really appreciate you tuning in. If you stayed with us this long, man, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. If you have not subscribed, like the vast majority of our viewers have not subscribed, I know that's shocking. Help us out a lot if you just hit that button. Just
join the masses.
Only once.
Join the masses.
Join the masses. Exactly.
Resistance is futile.
Not twice, just once. Resistance is indeed futile. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Mental9R. This is Caffeine Entertainment. It's time to wake up and play some games.